Everyone, I just wanted to give you a midweek checkup and just make sure everything's going okay for all of you. Again, you're doing excellent job in the discussion boards. Just remember that you do need to do your 2 peer replies. So you do your initial response to the prompt. That's always due by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. I give a little bit of wiggle room the first week of class as y'all are getting used to doing everything. And then your 2 peer replies are due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So just make sure that you're completing the entire discussion post. I had a few of you that forgot to do your peer replies, and again, it happens. Just make sure that you get them in from now on. And I just wanted to make a few comments about the Andrew Stanton video. One of the reasons I have you watch it is because this guy is a professional in his field. He is a professional storyteller. You've watched his movies, most of you have, I'm sure. Toy Story, Finding Nemo, WALL-E, some of the ones that he mentioned in there. But one of the things I really, really wanted to point out from this video is if you noticed in the section where he talks about Toy Story, it took them 2 years to come up with that story. And they struggled with it. Like, they kept trying new things. It wasn't working. They wanted to do something that was breaking the traditional mode when it came to animation. And so they really had to think outside the box. And so I just wanted to point that out to you because a lot of you talk about how you struggle with your writing. And that's because writing is a process. And I think that the video really, really emphasizes that writing is a process. You're constantly learning new things. One of the other things about Toy Story that I thought was really awesome was how they changed the character of Woody. Originally, he was not a likable character, and they realized it wasn't working, so they did something different. And I want you to do the same things with your narratives. I would love it if you wanted to experiment a little bit with maybe the chronology of things, where maybe you start at the end of the story and work your way to the beginning. Maybe start in the middle of the story with how you're feeling. As I mentioned, I think in the other video, is like if I wanted to talk about my horrible experiences with speaking, maybe say something along the lines of my heart was pounding and sweat was pouring out my back as I anxiously awaited my turn to speak in front of the class. Like, that's one of the things you can do to draw your audience in, is try to find that connection. A human experience, if you say, because I think almost all of us have had that experience of being nervous, whether or not it was speaking in front of a class, or those of you who are athletes, right before the gun goes up. Like, I ran track, so I say gun. Probably shouldn't say that, but I ran track in high school, and I can still remember that heart pounding, just waiting for the race to begin, or that first quarter of a basketball game, or I was in marching band, and I can still remember major competitions, not wanting to screw up and being so nervous right before we went on the field. Just finding things that can connect to your audience that way. Or if you're writing about a happy memory, you can start out by talking about those feelings of contentment and happiness and warmth and joy, because we've all experienced moments of joy in our lives as well. So I think that's the key, is being able to bring that pathos, that emotional appeal into your papers in order to help create that connection with the audience. And that is what is going to be key with the narrative. I also just wanted to emphasize that this is written for an audience of your peers. It's not written for me, a college instructor. I want you to write this in your own voice. I want it to be almost conversational in tone, with how you would speak to a friend. And so that's who I want your audience to be. I want it to be a group of your peers, like presenting that you were going to possibly be reading this to your classmates. And so I want it to be in your language, I don't want you to try to make it sound overly impressive, because just like, oh, this is a college paper. One of the things that we try to teach you in college is learning how to write for different audiences. So how you would write a paper for a bunch of college instructors would be different than how you would write it for your friends. And you have to think about that, because when you get out into your careers in the real world, you're going to be creating things and it's going to be for specific audiences. Sometimes it will be for people that you're trying to impress. And so you're going to go really heavy making sure on the grammar checks, making sure that everything is dead letter perfect. But sometimes it might just be a casual presentation. So you don't want to come off as overly academic or make it sound like you're trying to be impressive, if that makes any sense. You're going to want to keep it casual because you're going to want to keep it a little bit more lighthearted in that connection to the audience. And so that's part of what college writing is. It's just learning how to write for the different situations that you're going to find yourself in as you progress both in academics and in your college career. So I just want you to keep that in mind as you start doing a little bit of pre-writing. If you're struggling with it, or if you just want me to maybe go over one-on-one things with you, just shoot me an email or a text, and I will be happy to maybe set up a Zoom meeting where we can share screens and as you start this writing process and you just really, really feel like you need some help. But I don't want you to stress over it. If it's not working, we'll fix it. That's why I have a really, really heavy revision policy in this class, because another thing I want you to do is just try that experiment. See if something will work. And if it doesn't work, guess what? We'll try something else. And we'll just keep working at it until it's what you want it to look like. And you can still make an A. All right? There's not this, oh, I screwed up. The highest grade I can make in this is a C now. That's not what this class is about. It's about finding out what works best for you. So, with that in mind, just always keep Toy Story in the back of your mind. It took 2 years to come up with that story. It took a lot of revisions and changing of the characters and making sure that things were going to work for their audience of children. Just remember that. So your first drafts usually aren't perfect. Pre-writing and doing some brainstorming is going to be your friend right now. And I can't remember if I mentioned this in the video. I also teach this 10-10 in classes. And so sometimes especially when it's towards the end of the week, and I've already taught this 4 times in my face-to-face classes, I try to remember what all I taught everybody. But one of the things, when we tell stories, usually we verbalize them. We usually do not write them down. And so I think I did tell you, one of the things that can be really, really helpful is to record yourself telling your stories, just as part of your brainstorming process. Another thing that can be helpful is to talk to other people who are involved in the story. So like if I was going to go back and write my entire narrative about my experiences with my mom reading to me, I was 3-4 years old in those memories. And so I vividly remember some books, but I might be like, hey mom, do you remember the books that you used to read to me when you were little? And she might go, oh yeah, don't you remember I read Chronicles of Narnia? I'm like, oh wow, I don't remember that. Oh wait, now I do. Because sometimes our memories can be fickle and we can remember certain things, but that's why connections are so great. And one of the reasons why we tell stories is because sometimes other people will remember something that we didn't remember. And so I think that even just having conversations with people, like if you're talking about a particular class that you were in, going back and saying, hey, didn't you have, I just remember this, gosh, this is kind of there was a teacher at Siegel Middle School where my kids went, and her name was Miss Pancake, and she was the most fantastic English teacher. And I have a lot of my students at Siegel High School write about her because she was such a wonderful teacher. And they'll all start talking about, yeah, I remember Miss Pancake. Don't you remember when she did this in class? And another student will go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Sometimes even just having conversations with people who might have that shared memory that you do can unlock things that maybe you have forgotten. And so I highly encourage that as well. If you're going to be writing about something that happened in your 5th grade class, if you have a friend that was in that 5th grade class with you, hey, don't you remember so-and-so? Do you remember that test that we had or that paper we had to write? How did you do on it? Like having those conversations can really draw out some of those memories and maybe even remember a few details that you've forgotten. And narrative writing is all about the details, like making sure you put those little bits of information in there that really help to paint a picture in the reader's mind. So yeah, have those conversations, speak it out loud, experiment with your pre-writing, experiment with even how you write the papers, maybe using that text-to-talk speech feature on your phone or in your Microsoft Word program. I just really, really want y'all to find what works for you, what you feel comfortable doing. And sometimes you try something and you're like, yeah, it doesn't work for me. And that's okay. Just don't do it next time. And as always, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. I'm always here to help you.